This is a Hebrew-English interlinear showing Genesis chapter 1 verses 1 through 7. As this may be your first exposure to the Hebrew text, I should take a moment here to explain a few things. First, Hebrew is read from right to left. The text begins here and then read in this direction. Each English phrase beginning at the right is read from left to right, and then the next phrase at the left is read from right to left, and so on. So, for example, this phrase, in beginning, is a translation of the Hebrew word above it, which is Bereshit. A second explanation that needs to be addressed is the subject-verb relationship. In English, Genesis 1 verse 1 begins, "In the beginning God created." The word God is the subject of the verb, the one who is performing the action. And created is the verb, the action. English always writes the subject and verb in this order. But in Hebrew, this is in reverse. The verb comes before the subject. Now, there are always exceptions to the rules, but generally, this is how Hebrew is written. Here we have the verb, and then the subject. Notice the word he here. Most Hebrew verbs will identify the number and gender of the subject. In this case, the number is singular and the gender is masculine, and in English we use the pronoun he, and the he is God. Here is another verb-subject combination, and another. You may have no intention of learning Hebrew, but you are going to come across some Hebrew words so frequently that you are going to begin learning some Hebrew whether you like it or not. As an example, this is the Hebrew word Elohim, meaning God. You are going to come across this word time and again, and as you can see, it becomes easily recognizable over time. As mentioned in the lesson on the limitations of Strong's Dictionary, the prefixes and suffixes of Hebrew words are not identified in Strong's Dictionary. The solution to this is an interlinear Bible. Here the word in is identified as a prefix to the Hebrew word meaning beginning. The same with the words the, and the. An interlinear will also provide a translation of the verbs. Here the verb bara is translated as he created, which identifies the subject of the verb as masculine singular, he, based on the conjugation of the verb in Hebrew. The conjugation of this verb identifies the subject of the verb as feminine singular, she. I should also note that in English we have three genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter. He is masculine, she is feminine, and it is neuter. Hebrew does not have a neuter, so there will always be a he or a she when referring to nouns. So it is not, it is the earth, it would be, she is the earth. The she is referring to the earth, which is a feminine word in Hebrew. While Strong's Dictionary does not identify the gender of Hebrew nouns, most lexicons will, such as the Brown Driver Briggs, which identifies this word as a noun, feminine, and the same in the ancient Hebrew lexicon. This is Genesis 1 verse 20 and Genesis 2 verse 7 from the New International Version of the Bible. In these two verses are the words creature and soul. If we look up the word creature in a concordance, we will find that this is the Hebrew word nephesh. When we do the same thing for the word soul, we find that it also is the Hebrew word nephesh. This is a common problem with Bible translations. They are not very consistent in how they translate Hebrew words, and instead interpret the Hebrew text for the reader. Interlinear Bibles will often help with these translation difficulties. Here are the same two passages from the English Standard Version Interlinear. Here is the word nephesh in both passages, and in both places they are translated as creature. But not all interlinear Bibles are as consistent, though. Here is the New International Version Interlinear. In 1 verse 20, the word nephesh is translated as breath, but in 2 verse 7, it is translated as being. The point of this is to inform you that it is important that you be careful in your studies and cross-reference and check everything.